Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this discussion today, focusing on the eighth chapter of the book, Jesus in Our Days. My name is Marcia Trajano, and I'm so happy to be here conducting this next level of the discussions that we've been having for the past 2 months. In any case, as you can see in this slide out there, the psychological series by the spiritual author Joanna de Angelis is indeed very powerful, very impactful to all of us. So it is such an honor to be here today to present some of the main ideas found in this specific book. The intent of the series is to discuss the insightful messages contained in the first of 16 books by Joanna de Angelis in this series. Jesus in Our Days is such a small book. I love it. It's easy. It doesn't really make it daunting reading. And this chapter specifically is, again, 3 pages long. And as we read, as we reflect, as we even come here to discuss about it, we take on a very different perspective about Jesus, and we also take a sense of comfort from what we learn from him. So, we're going to dive into his teachings, and we are open to be touched by them. It is a pleasure to be able to do this with you as we embrace this new image of Joanna de Angelis, the image of a Jesus no longer at the cross. It's the she brought this uncrucified Jesus as a human, a someone like you and me. But with that, I would like to welcome Jesus in your life. And I welcome you and I to learn and to receive all the knowledge and comfort so that we are equipped to address some challenging situations. His therapeutic teachings will lead us to health, peace, and happiness. We are, as you can see here, in the eighth chapter of a 20 chapter book. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm here to bring to you, and the title "Who Am I?" is because as Joanna de Angelis start to talk about duty, she puts front and center personality types that predominates on all walks of life today, and it's really almost a statement of a narcissistic personality type in its essence. So she's just start to describe those types, and I'm going to put you and me in the same conversation, right? So she says uh, people at our all walks of life, including ourselves. And she says there are countless people, but I'm going to, as I said, put you and I in the same count, but that we unconsciously feel entitled. We feel that we deserve it all. We sometimes believe, and I'm trying not to laugh here, that the sun shines because we exist. And as we exist, there's this entire universe, including a solar system, including a sun that is out there just with the function, the goal, the objective to provide us with light, provide us with more warmth, and provide us with life. Got it? There are inside of us this sense of value that we just think that we're good, but as we are confronted with reality, right, the naked truth about things, all those values, all of the goodness just fall apart, and somehow we tend to become, yes, bitter. We become even rebellious, and we can fall into this perhaps depressed state, right, into depression, or into the sense of aggression, and I get angry because reality does not really demonstrate that the sun and the moon and the stars are here because of us. We also, and that's the main point here, I'm afraid, do not take on the full responsibilities of our duties. And because of that, we often will make a commitment. Yes, 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 I'll do this. Count on me. I'll show up and I'll help, whatever. It may be something very silly or very, very strong commitments, but we take on commitments and we tend to abandon them. And at the same time that we abandon, we find excuses, right? There's this whole area within ourselves, our projected shadow, as Jung would say. We project our shadow into the others, and we find the darkness or the wrongs in the other to justify our actions. So no, 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 I could not be there because, and really start to feel inside of us all the, the hurt and the wrongs that life has done to us. She continues, hang in there. We are demanding about everybody else's conduct, right? Oh, so and so failed to do this, so and so did that, and we are harsh critics of everybody else. We judge and we keep on verbalizing our judgments. Yet, as we fall, because all of us do fall, we are not perfect yet. We are rather forgiving when we do that. We are somehow in a state of confusion, and as such, we end up being a burden to society. We bring all of this craziness of our immature thinking into society and other situations. So let's just pause to think about how many times were we the agents of uh, issues at home, at work, or any other type of community. And if not, right, if things are good, if there's no, I'm not so confused, I'm not becoming, bringing or creating a burden to society, but I'm good, I'm easy, I smile a lot, life is so good. And then if there is any change of winds, if you will, if there is any change where you're no longer the favorite child, you're no longer the esteemed professional, you're no longer the best in class for school, whatever that may be, then we become rude and we become thankless because we feel that, and this is of course, an egoic response, because we're feeling that you're not respecting me. What I deserve, the power that I believe that I have is not being respected. So, in so many words, we are good when we're good, but when things are not good, whenever we go through any type of struggle, we end up in those two spectrum of aggressiveness, right, or depression. these personality types that really remounts you and me, I can just think about it. Well, narcissistic, neurotic, sociopaths, psychopaths, and the list goes on and on. It's scary because we're it. This is what we do. And Joanna says, yeah, yeah, right. There's too many of us in this type of thinking and behavior that really need to be reminded that the reason we have a life, a physical life, is to really test who we truly are, right? Not just everything is fine. And I in my mind's eye, I can see myself maybe in some time in a castle, and I'm an aristocrat. Can you imagine that? And I have all sorts of servants, and they dress me and they feed me, and everything is done in such a way that I'm pampered and I look the best, and I am there just for show, but without this entire group of people preparing me, serving me, helping me, I am nothing. And in fact, she says, not so. We're here to be tested, and not just tested through uh, being confronted, to being a victim of a conflict, or anything else, or I don't know, just stress or frustrations, right? And it can be as common as getting your car and drive 2 miles from where you are, and heavier than expected traffic gets you all crazy. No, we're talking about tests around our courage, our morals, and yes, all the non-deferrable duties that we have toward ourselves and toward all of those around us. So that's the message from this chapter. And it's important here to perhaps go back to 2 chapters ago. We're talking about honor, right? And if we remember the chapter, it really define honor, and it's beautiful, a short but very insightful definition of what honor is, which is simply saying the courage to do what is right, the courage to have the right choice and to follow up on that. And so when we think about it, we should also note that no one, no one has the right to enjoy something for nothing. Which means, yes, that idea of me being an aristocrat and having a group of people serving me for nothing, in this case, historically speaking, because my bloodline pushed me to be served, right? If it implies that I'm exploiting someone else's efforts, this is not my right to enjoy. Thank God society has changed a little bit, somewhat, right? And we are no longer in that sense. But let's just dive a little bit further to the definition of duty, right? And and from an honor perspective, the courage to do it right, Joanna also says that the prize for what you do in your own merit, your own effort, is the honor that is considered to the person who is, let's say, who achieves and wins over oneself or other issues, complex problems, etc. So the prize is the person who has done something and who achieved something. So the discussion here, because it is about Yes, a little bit about honor, but mostly about duty, those non-deferrable duties. I cannot outsource my life to somebody else. Ha ha ha, right? I'm just kidding here. But because it is about my life, your life, our lives, and about the path that we chose um, to go with, to stimulate our own growth, Joanna tells us that each individual's honor is our compass, our moral compass, if you will, that will guide us in our own fulfillment of our promised tasks toward our own evolution. So this effort that we do, that it is our duty. The effort in fulfilling that sense of duty is there, and it really demonstrate our conscious moral achievement once it is truly aligned with what you want, our alignment with our creator, with our own promises, right? So, being useful in any and every circumstance, it will lead us to live a life of dignity. And this is just an expression of our duty in life. So let's move on about action and promise, fact and intention. I love this because there is an interesting, very short but very unforgettable parable, and this is found in Matthew chapter 21. And as short, as insightful as it is, it talks about this topic: promises and actions, our intentions. What they say, the road to hell is paved with intentions, right? So, anyways, Matthew writes that there was a man. That's the story. There was a man who had two sons, and this man who needed something, he comes to the first son and says, "Son, can you please go and work in the vineyard today?" So the first son says, "Yes, sir." And as he readies himself to help his father, thinks it over, and I'm too lazy today. It may be raining. I'm just, those are not in Matthew, by the way. I'm just trying to think the mindset of that son. Oh, my girlfriend just called me and we want to go to a movie, so on and so forth. All of those excuses. So, despite the fact that he said, "Yes, sir," he didn't. Father needed help. So he goes to the second son and he asks the same thing. "Son, can you please go and work in the vineyard today?" And the second son, who whatever was going on his mind or at the time, he just says, "No, no, sir, I will not." However, as he leaves his father, again, those are my annotation to the moment. He goes out and he's like, I've noticed that Dad is not feeling so hot today, and this is a very special day, and there be this, so he really needs my help. So he decides, even though he has said no to his father, to and feeling bad about it, he went. So the question here for us: which of the two did the will of the Father? And of course, we say yes. It's the second one is the one that, even though the words uttered, the intention was, "I will not," he then fulfills with his work, with action, what it was needed. So Jesus tells this story through Matthew to discuss and exemplify the behavior of someone who puts the effort, and it is that person who actually deserves respect. And in doing so, he may demonstrate his own, I don't know, vulnerability, fragility, whatever. Like, oh boy, this is the second son. I again upset my father, right? I again am a disgrace. Whatever it is that was going on, for him to say categorically, no, I will not help you, and by confronting that and with the desire for perhaps a do-over, right? A self-renewal, then he, the son, goes on to do it. So I wanted just to take a moment to tell a little bit about me. I am, professionally speaking, a project manager, and sorry to bore you with those details, but the success of a project is directly related to delivering whatever the scope of the project, or whatever that scope may be, on time and on budget. This is classic definition. You can Google it and you find it. It's very pure and simple definition of a project success. Well, what I'm trying to bring here is many, many, many years ago, and this is lifetimes ago, it feels like, I worked with a company whose mission statement, the mission statement, and I have a card here in front of me, every business card that you got from that company read its mission, which was to under promise and over deliver, which is what the second son did. He under promised, I will not go. Therefore, anything that he did beyond that was over deliver on that promise, right? And it's very interesting because as I think back to my days working for that company, I clearly remember a a sense of every employee, whatever you're doing, you're given a statement of work, right? And you look for ways to not only meet on those promises on time, on budget, but go above and beyond whatever it was the agreement. So in life, we're faced over and over and over again with similar dilemma. What am I promising? What am I committing to you and to myself? And what are my actions? What are my intentions? And it's still close, right in the beginning of the year. And we can think about it. Yes, every time we close a cycle, maybe the best one to think about is the end of the year. And we have all new intentions, all new goals, all new sense of, no, this time next year I will have done more. Those are my intentions. Some of us write it down on our list, some of us is just in the thinking, or even the words, oh yes, I'm doing this different this year. But between the intention and the actual activities that I do toward fulfilling those intentions, the facts that reveal those, there may be a very, very large gap between the two of you. So when action is seen, evidence over words, right? The actions, like the parable says, it's a very beautiful demonstration of that idea, that sense of duty. when we're doing something, doesn't matter what, if it's good or bad, comforting or not, those words around what we're doing really are not necessary. And I go to this today. All I could think about was Saint Francis of Assisi. I'm going to Italy, to Assisi, soon in on vacation, and to attend a conference. So it's very much in my mind. And when we think about it, Saint Francis taught us, teach the good news. And the good news simply means teach the gospel of Jesus all the time. And if necessary, use the words. And I love that. We don't need the words. By doing, we are fulfilling our promises, or in the case of St. Francis, we are teaching about what it is that we need to do. So, in any case, what we are confronted here is the point where we make a decision, and the point that we proceed toward that decision are the key points here. So Jesus' teachings about duty is all about action. And Joanna tells us uh, it's it's notable here. It's a question about understanding the discussion about duty so that we can do better. Love it. But if you pause again for another second as we come to an end of our discussion today, let's also if I may, go over the lyrics that of a prayer that has become a song, and this prayer has been attributed to Saint Francis of Assisi, even though it was found many centuries after he died. So not his, probably not, but because it exemplifies the man and the Franciscan order that he founded, we call it the Saint Francis of Assisi prayer. And this is really beautiful to me because we can, as we think about it, as we reflect upon it, we can internalize the concept of duty in action, the idea of understanding better so that we can act accordingly. So let me read it to you. And the prayer starts with, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Doubt, faith. Despair, hope. Darkness, light. And where there's sadness, joy. And the prayer, the second verse of this prayer, shifts to not just be a peace so that I can bring something, but it shifts to give instead of being the passive recipient of actions and emotions from others. So he goes on to say, and I'm saying he, and I'm thinking St. Francis, right? Oh, Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is giving that we receive, it is pardoning that we're pardoned, and it is dying that we're born to eternal life. So whenever I listen to this prayer, I am always deeply moved and feel it is quite appropriate for this chapter. But if you go back to the message in those 3 pages regarding Jesus and duty, Joanna says that Jesus never induced anyone to alienation from objective reality. Love it, very current. Do not think that your life, your current object reality is something that is not real. He didn't say that. He just established that there is a hierarchy, a scale of values that in respecting, in putting those higher priority, we should be able to then um, achieve and have the accomplishments that will automatically fulfill our own sense of duty. And it's interesting because when we look at that little parable and many others that he mentioned, Jesus offered us always a action driven lesson without an imposition, right? He just was talking to us, inviting us for a sense of our own awakened conscience. Love it. So let's wrap up our conversation today by talking a little bit about promises. And I say this very simply because Joanna closes the chapter with several calls to action, right? Or call to several actions. She says basically, never make a promise you do not intend to keep. At the same time, and if you go back to the image of me being an aristocrat with all those individuals helping me be what I am not on my own, and the sense of I don't deserve it. Well, Joanna says, never rest on your laurels. So let's think about whatever station of life we're in, we can and we should assess our own possibilities, all the potential for meeting our goals, our duty, and press on. The sense of duty is something, if we think about it, that really imposes a selflessness and many times hardship. So I go back to the words in St. Francis's prayer, right? He does not want to be understood. He wants to understand. So there is that sense of sacrifice, of hardship. He does not want to be forgiven. He wants to forgive. And from that sense, it's a teaching that will, when we're doing that, it will bring us harmony and will also lead us to resolving conflicts or doubts or questions that we may have about whomever outside of our own a center of universe, our own life. And as St. Francis of Assisi is pretty much is still in my mind, I wanted to bring here in a few more minutes the fact that there is this old movie, maybe in the 70s, if 80s or 70s, by Franco Zeffirelli. And the movie is called Brother Sun, Sister Moon. And I watched it as a young kid, right? So the scene that is stuck in my mind is when the Franciscan followers were now no longer one, two, four, 10, but we're talking about hundreds, if not more, young men who followed him wherever he went and whatever he taught. But his followers, at some point in one scene, and there's this beautiful area in that area of Italy, right? Beautiful, beautiful movie. And they're there, and Francis is he's sitting down, and they're just questioning him, and they're questioning the logistics of the movement, and his leadership, right? And what was to become the so-called Franciscan order. In one of the scenes, the detractors are there, but Francis, blah blah blah, and they kept bringing to with a certain level of uproar with everybody else, questioning him, and Saint Francis simply agreed with all their statements. Yes, you're right. I could have done better. Yes, you're right. This is not the best way to do it. Yes, it's right. He agreed with it all. He accepted any accusatory feedback, but he never stopped from doing his mission of spreading love in that Franciscan order way, which is poverty and simplicity. So, Joanna concludes this chapter with this invitation, like St. Francis, no matter what, let's not stop. Let's never cease. And her words are never stop from growing in your, inwardly in who you are. She recognizes that at some point there will be a sense of awareness that, oh boy, I should by now have done this and that, and there's some maybe lack of accomplishments, or think in terms of the end of the year list, and I said I was going to do, I don't know, 1,500 things, and I've done three. So my achievements in relationship to my intentions are lagging. But she says, if that is the case, let that be your motivation to go faster, to go higher, right? Again, the mission statement of the company: under promise, over deliver. Go over delivering on your actions, not so much your intentions. So I want to close here with something from the academic as well as business world. There is a concept, a philosophy called servant leadership. And it is defined as a non traditional philosophy embedded in a set of behaviors and practices that place the primary emphasis on the well being of those served. And if you go into the Center for Servant Leadership, we find that the servant leader is servant first, right? So it is all about the actual natural feeling that me, the leader, I want to serve first, first, right? And then there's this conscious choice to I want to serve and I want to lead as a servant, and that is leads to a very different type of leadership, as you can imagine, right? So like St. Francis, he was a leader even though he did not really need to be that leader, but he led with servant leadership. And the servant leader will then focus primarily on the growth, the well being of the people and the communities that he or she belong and serves. So it is very beautiful to say that, because we are servants of this world. And in fact, Jesus, and if we think about, Jesus came from the stars, right? Jesus stated that he was the servant of all, so that we all may have a life that is abundant in nature. So, with that, I want to say I hope you had a good time with me, and that this discussion today can open the doors to each one of us regarding this topic, duty. And I hope to see you next week when we talk about joy. Thank you.